What's up, Clemson Nation? What's up, YouTube? What's up, TTC? Guys, it's been a while since I've been on here talking some football, I know, but it's about that time again, you know? And I want to get on here and talk a little bit about my expectations for this year's football team and what I expect a little bit of, and just get into depth a little bit about the team as quickly as I can. And my expectations. So, obviously, people know we're going to be a veteran defense and a young or inexperienced offense for the most part. Our schedule is it's pretty tough this year. You know, it's ranked by most as a top 10 tough schedule. I compare the month of September this year for Clemson to Georgia's September last year, where Georgia had to play Clemson, South Carolina, and LSU. And Clemson this year has to go to Georgia. They got to go to Florida State, and then they play North Carolina. North Carolina won't be a top 10 team, but then again, two of our three are on the road, and two of three of Georgia's were at home. Georgia went 2-1 against their tough three. I'd love to go 2-1, honestly. You know, there really isn't any excuse for Clemson not to win 10 games again. Now, I'm not going to come on here and say we're going to be 12-0 or anything, although I'm going to be optimistic because I'm an optimistic person. I'm always going to be a little optimistic that we will go 12-0, but honestly, I think that 10 wins, you know, be it 10-2 in the regular season or 10-3 after a bowl win, I think that's as bad as we should be. Like we don't need to be any worse than that. We have all the talent in the world, and even though they're not quite experienced all over the place, there's no excuse for us to have less than 10 wins. But 10 wins would also be a good year for us given the circumstances. Now, a lot of people, let's start off with offense. Obviously, people are going to be saying that our offense will be slacking or be lacking this year. Um, it will it will all come down to the Georgia game, I guess. You know, we will see how mature this group really is when we go into the Georgia game. Um, to see the big question is the quarterbacks. The biggest question: will Cole Stout be able to retain his starting position throughout the year, or will Deshaun Watson be able to come in as a true freshman and make a big impact? Obviously, ESPN just ranked Deshaun Watson as the number one future star of college football. In one of their polls, you know, he's got all the talent in the world, number one dual threat quarterback coming into this year. And Cole Stout, he's got the veteran part, but he doesn't have the raw talent that Deshaun Watson has. But honestly, I do think that Cole Stout, barring an injury, will be the starter throughout the year. I think that we'll see Deshaun Watson in situations if we're up on somebody, you know, and against maybe the South Carolina State and the Citadel, I think we played too. We might see him play the whole game pretty much against them, against like Wake Forest or somebody like that. You might see a good bit of Deshaun Watson, but I do not think he'll take the starting reins unless there's an injury. Um, we're very deep at wide receiver and running back this year. We really are. We're solid at offensive line too. Solid, not great. We will be. We're bringing in some absolute studs in the 2015 class. But as of right now, you know, we're solid. It might be shaky at times, but I think we'll be solid. The offensive line, wide receiver, it'll be led by Drum Peak, Adam Humphries, Mike Williams, and all these other guys, younger guys we have come into. Tight ends, I think we'll be more than solid. We'll be a great tight end core. You'll see a lot of the passes go to the tight ends this year with Seconder out there, and God, who Seconder and brain fart. I'll get it out in a minute. But you know, running back, we got Gallman back there. You know, we got Howard, and running backs just they go really deep. We don't have any one person who's really gonna stand out, but we have a very deep offense all around, and they're inexperienced, and so that's just what we're gonna have to see. How will they inexperienced play out this season? And hopefully, obviously, as Clemson fans want to see them just break out and have great games in the Georgia game, and Leggett's the other tight end. I can't believe I couldn't remember. Leggett, the guy who had some off the field trouble, and hopefully he's got all of that back in there for our tight ends. And you know, I think the offense, honestly, it will not be quite as explosive, obviously, with Sammy Watkins, but it'll still be very solid, very good offense. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. It'll come down to the Georgia game. I think that'll determine tough road atmosphere. It'll determine really how we play the rest of the year because that first game against a big opponent really normally does determine how your year goes. And as far as the defense goes, there's a lot of people saying that it's overhyped and that it really won't be that good. And there's been a rumor among uneducated college football fans, I guess after, and for good reason, after the 2011 season, uneducated college football fans are just going to use that as a stereotype for Clemson defense, when in reality, the 2011 and somewhat 2012 seasons were really an anomaly for Clemson's defense. Um, Clemson normally always has a top 20 defense, had a top 25 defense last year, and we really had top 20 defenses for years before 2011. Even 2010, 6 and 7 season, we had like a top 15 defense, I think. The offense was just disastrous. And so, Clemson is normally a defensive team. The offense has obviously been, are still on the show the last few years, but we are a defensive oriented team, and we're going to see that again this year. We have a very veteran defensive line out there with Corey Crawford, Vic Beasley, Grady Jarrett. These guys are going to come through, and they're going to play dominant, in my opinion. The linebacker core is going to be very solid this year. We're going to have a good linebacking core. We always do, though. We're always going to have it. Tony Stewart coming back from the injury, we'll see what he can do. And all the stuff that he's been through, I look forward to seeing him out there. And, obviously, secondary, not a bad secondary at all, but that will be our weak point. Secondary being the toughest position to play in college football. It'll be our weak point, but our defense will, in my opinion, without a doubt, be a top 10 defense this year. With all the hurdles we have, scheduling wise, with us easily being able to say we could start 2-2 after September, with that being the toughest stretch of schedule. With Louisville being introduced instead of Maryland, which is a much tougher, even though Louisville lost Bridgewater, they'll have a good defense still. And just a tough schedule. We really, really, really need to assert ourselves early against Georgia, because if we come out and we play bad against Georgia, get run over by Georgia, or even lose to Georgia at all, the Florida State game is going to be that much tougher, and we know how tough the Florida State game is going to be already. Just the only conference team we've lost to the last 2 years, Florida State, and it's going to be even harder this year. But I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to bring the trash talk. You better believe that. But overall, I'm going to go ahead and give us a prediction of once again 11-2 this year. I don't know who those two losses will be to. Really hoping South Carolina's not one of them again. And Florida State will be by far and away the toughest by far that we have this year. But I'm gonna go ahead and say 11-2 again this year. 3 straight 11-2 seasons, and then we'll see where we go next year. But anywhere from 10-3 to 11-2 to 12 and 12-1 would be amazing. But honestly, like I said, it's going to come down to that Georgia game and how we play there. That will really determine, because honestly, even following this Clemson team and knowing how much talent we have on offense, they just haven't had enough game experience yet for me to come out and say, oh, we're going to dominate. So it'll come down to that. But yeah, the trash talk will start in August. Georgia Hate Month. The dog pound is extinct, or, in dire need of someone. So we'll see what happens. But until then, go Tigers. Coming.